Smoke is coming out.
I can measure compression.
Two-stroke oil.
One addition to that, I think when the motors are in operating temperature, the compression equals out, because on one side the gas is
72 around.
Step 4, disassemble again. Then some of you had an idea to take off all the leftover piston rings, and
It was worth a try. 600.
the higher the compression is, the higher the delta T needs to be. So maybe you're right that it's...
I was thinking making about the gas chamber.
Okay, last time this engine didn't run. This time I have some good ideas, or maybe you had some good ideas in the comments. I will try them out. Also, I borrowed this thing here. I can measure compression. I'm excited to see how high the compression is. You said compression is too high. Actually, I disagree, because compression shows me my motor is airtight, and I think there must be compression in an alpha configuration with a 90-degree cylinder angle. There must be compression, because the way the crankshaft is connected to the pistons, there is a time both pistons go up at the same time, so air must be compressed. Otherwise it's impossible. But you might also be correct. Some of you said that the higher the compression is, the higher the delta T needs to be. So maybe you're right that it's easier if my compression would be lower, that I could make this thing run with a lower delta T. We will check. Yeah. So step 1, disassemble. Step 2, drilling the hole for the N10x1 connection. Step 3, assemble again, measure compression. Step 4, disassemble again. Then some of you had an idea to take off all the leftover piston rings, and so we could reduce the friction. Maybe it's a good idea. Why not? Let's try. Also, I had the idea, because many of you complained about my lubrication on both sides. I know it's not ideal. I use WD-40, and one of you convinced me. He was so convinced, actually, WD-40 is not good for this. I think maybe he's right. At least we could give it a try. And one thing I came up with is two-stroke oil. So two-stroke oil is working in operating temperature in two-stroke engines. So I will try it on both sides. Let's see what happens. Yeah. About the compression, one addition to that, I think when the motors are in operating temperature, the compression equals out, because on one side the gas is expanding or shrinking, and on the other side the piston goes up. So it equals out when this thing is in operating temperature. And I could also feel it when I heated this thing up. It was much easier to turn it when it was hot. So I think compression equals out with temperature. But let's disassemble first and check my compression. So probably it's not a good idea to drill a hole in the middle. So I will drill a hole in here.
But first of all, this stand is also very stupid. It's too wobbly. It's too... yeah, it's not stable. Let's use this one. That's a good spot. $3mm, yes. It's 9mm. 9mm for M10 times 1. That's the screw. Just one little rubber. Let's see if it fits. Yes, it's seating. Very good. Yes, so that's good. As a lubricant, this time we will use two-stroke oil on both sides. What side? There is no compression now. Looks like something is not tight on the hot side. Let's lose it again. No. And there is still a gap. That's not working. I can see the gap or the notch. So the cylinder head has to go down. I have to lose it again. Shit. Yes, like this now. This looks good. So let's check. Yes, we have compression. Okay. Then we can test. We can test this thing here. Let's take out the screw. Take out the screw, put in the barometer. It's sealed with rubber, so this should work. I think this will save the highest, so the arrow will stop in the highest position. Let's check. That's strange. There is no compression on this thing. Very strange. Very strange. How can it not show? How can it not show any compression if it's so hard? Strange. Very strange. Huh. Strange. Okay. Anyhow, it was worth a try. Not sure if this thing is not working or my compression is relatively low. Doesn't matter. Okay. Put back on the screw. Okay, anyhow, the plan now was to disassemble again, take off all the piston rings left and check if this thing runs with lower friction. Two piston rings left. I will take them out. One out. Enough oil. No, one more thing. I wanted to measure the size of the piston. That's an original Trabant piston, and I wanted to measure the core size or the bore size of my self-made cylinder. I can't remember because it's too long ago. I have 0, 71.8, and here we have 72 around. So that's 1/10 of a millimeter. So the fit is actually very wide. Let's see if this can work or not. I'm not sure. What size? We need a hammer. Good. Okay, that's it. I can still see the markings from the last time I put on graphite. So yeah, piston is just scratching on the inside here. Okay, let's put everything back together. Maybe a little oil for inside. No, enough oil still there. Five. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, good. Put everything back. Okay, let's check if we have still compression without all of the piston rings. So there is a pretty big gap now between piston and cylinder wall. Let's see. No, there is not. I can feel a little bit of, no, but not much. Not much. Let's check when we heat this thing up. Okay, let's see if this thing runs without piston rings. Nearly no compression. Yeah, nearly no compression. No piston rings, less friction. Let's check. I don't think so, but I will check anyway. Okay, outside temperature 5 degrees Celsius. Degrees, outside 70. 600. So no. This time there was no willing to run. I couldn't feel anything, any force, anything. So without the piston rings, it makes no sense. Yeah, it's logically. If I think about it, it's logic. Without piston rings, no compression. So there cannot be a gas. The gas exchange, or no, can't work. Okay. Well, but I had one more idea while eating this can of beans. One of you said heat not just the top of the hot side, but also the side walls of the cylinder. And it's actually quite hard because you cannot, with this torch, you cannot fumble around everywhere. So I was thinking making about a gas chamber, not a gas chamber, a flame chamber for this thing. Maybe something like an attachment which goes over here, and will stop half of the cylinder. So the flames can go inside here, this goes over, and the flames will surround the hot side. So this might be an idea when I put back on the piston rings. What can I say? No success. One step forward, two steps back. Huh? It smells like two-stroke oil.